Afternoon, my name is Latt. I'm from Myanmar. Today, we would like to present about mythical hybrid beings in the sculptural art of Myanmar, Asian demons, and contemporary Latt. This is outline of our presentation. Firstly, I will talk about introduction about these sculptures, and then I will present four main sculptures, their history and detail. And then my friend Aung will continue about stego hybrid beings, and our professor Elizabeth Moore, she will conclude our presentation. Let me start with introduction. In Myanmar, there can be found many nuts. Nuts is Burmese word, and it means God, goddess, and spirits. Among them, some of the nuts are kind of hybrid beings. That's the reason, that's why we put nuts in this hybrid presentation. So even nuts can be both female and male. This presentation will focus on only female nut. In Burmese, we call male. Besides, mero can also be called in other words in Burmese. In this case, these nuts can be called medo, amado, and Theint. It's a little bit complicated. Nuts are very, very popular in Myanmar. From archaeology point of view, these sculptures are tangible culture, while their stories, characteristics, roles, and stories are intangible culture. Each of the nuts has own shrine, and they protect that area, specific area. Next slide is about background. So according to the teachings of the Buddha, there are 31 places of existence in this universe. We humans are in one of these existences. The nuts live in one of the upper realms. Nuts means god and goddess, both female and male. So, but on the one hand, some nuts live in lower realms. That's why basically there are two types of nuts. One is divine nuts and another one is indigenous nuts. They are totally different. Divine nuts are celestial beings at the upper realms, often we call Deva. Indigenous nuts are worldly, spiritual nuts, and they all have tragic story, very sad story. Nuts have tangible and non-tangible qualities. Creatures of the lower realms are commonly hybrid. Contemporary. Now I will talk about nut worshipping. This worshipping is only for the indigenous nuts. In Myanmar, Myanmar has been officially a place of Theravada Buddhism since King Anawrahta era, 11th century. But nut worshipping has not disappeared until the present days because Theravada Buddhism doesn't allow nut worshipping, but today people still believe and worship nuts. It is a traditional belief. These pictures are kind of annually worshipped at home. They prepare with banana, coconut, some flowers, and some fragrance and some food, traditional food. And there is a saying that is belief and worship came from the frightening. Even now is digital age, the young generation still worship nuts because they are afraid of that. The old also order and encourage to the young to follow and to continue their tradition. They believe that nuts can hurt you if you abandon them. That is why nuts can help the people in their problems and wishes, and also nuts can give the people troubles too. There are three main categories in indigenous nuts. They are inner 37 nuts, outer 37 nuts, and enlist nuts. Enlist mean they are not both outer and inner nuts. Nowadays, people go to shrine and make a wish with a promise. For example, if you need a job, they go to shrine and wish to get a job, and they promise to not that they will come and offer many food or other things if their wish came true. So they used to come back to shrine and make a good merit after their wish came true. Otherwise, they believe that nuts will be very angry to them. So people celebrate nut festival also in their respective places. All these pictures are a nut festival in different ways. So normally we are two types of festival, big and small. So big festival is celebrated annually in their specific area, but small festival is celebrated in their home according to their wants and wishes. Next slide is about the characteristics of indigenous nuts. They were human beings before they died. They all have a very sad life story. They were famous in some ways in their life, and they had very strong abilities that other doesn't have. Unfortunately, they were killed or an expected death. So it can be said that they had a very crucial death. When they became nuts, they have own shrine. Their sculpture became hybrid according to their life story and are venerated. But there can be some exceptionals. In this presentation, I choose 4 Mero, 4 nuts. First is Nagarai Mero. She is indigenous nuts and list nut. In some cases, such as Nagarai Mero, the sculpture are physically hybrid or mixed. Here, the female figure is a part of a story that begins with a female buffalo named Nangarai, and she is also called Bago Mero. Bago is one of the cities in Myanmar because she protects Bago area. That's why her name is also called Bago Mero. But nowadays, not only people from Bago believe her, but also other places believe her too. So it depends on people, not depends on the area. She is a whole human being, but depicted with a hat dress. So you can see in the pictures, she was a buffalo and became nuts after dying. But buffalo sculpture is not suitable to worship. Therefore, the artist make a mythical hybrid sculpture, which is a woman wearing a buffalo headdress. So the legend is also a part of foundation of Bago city in the 14th century. So Prince Arch Edward was abandoned in the forest by his mother to protect him from his paternal uncle who wishes to use up the throne. He was raised by one buffalo and one grown repulsed an Indian incursions. In thanks, the king declared he would inherit the throne and offered his daughter in marriage. His buffalo mother began rampaging the fields, and the prince was sent to kill her. The buffalo nut is nonetheless depicted as a human with a buffalo headdress. You can see the picture woman with a buffalo hat. She is holding a fish. Sometimes it means a fish is offered to Nagarai nut. It is a part of a legendary of buffalo nut. Second is Shrinabe, and she is one of the outer 37 nuts. Shrinabe is usually depicted a lady with dragon headdress. The butchers are standing on the throne and sometimes beside the Naga dragon, sometimes in the pond. There are two legends about her, so which we don't know which one is true. So let me explain you in very briefly. One legendary is that she is the daughter of King Naga. Naga means a dragon, and married Mahagiri Nat. That's why in the present days, she can be seen together with Mimahagiri Nat at Mimahagiri Shrine. So you can see the two lower pictures. She is in the small pond and with dragon headdress. Another one is she is a spot of King Naga. So one is daughter of Naga and another legend is spawn of Naga. So anyway, she is from Naga family. If I would like to say their iconography, all depends on the size of their shrines and purposes. For example, some people, they worship to them in their home. If so, shrine is very small and the sculpture is also small. Like in the two lower pictures, sorry about that, you cannot imagine the size. Actually, you can hold the pond by your hand. It's very small one. But sometimes in the pagoda compound or some specific places in the city compound, there will be big shrines. At the places, the sculptures are as big as humans. So these two mirrors, Nagarai and Srinabe, are indigenous nuts, but they protect the area, region, and household properties. Next is I choose as Nya Nanwe. We used to call her Nya Nanwe Amado because she is from Tat, which is unseen war. She is different with Nangarai and Srinabe, the previous ones. For Nya Nanwe Mado, she protects hidden treasures or Tait. She is a guardian of the Tait, although a complete human being. She is also in the unlisted knot. Tait, it means a place where there are many treasures or jewelry, which is for the next Buddha to offer. Nyanminwe sculpture can be seen together with dragon sculpture sometimes because there is a legendary that is dragon appears when young man try to annoy her when she is alive because she is very pretty lady. Another reason is that she became a nut at dragon Nagatai after dying. So these are the photos of Nyananwe from Buddha Town Pagoda in Yangon. There is a big shrine for her. When you go there, you will see many worshippers and offering things. At the right side in my PowerPoint, you will see another one, a very small sculpture who is Bogawati Nakamero. So there is also a small sculpture with Naka headdress. It means dragon queen. She can also be found in the same shrine with Nyananwe Mero. So the last one is the Mamyaseng. She is also from Thai, same like Nyananwe. According to the legendary, Mamyaseng was born in Myaseng village. Even she has real name, she is known as Mamyaseng. But originally she came from Thai to the human life, and then she married a man and had a baby boy. But she didn't live long, and she needs to go back her previous life. But she is different with others. Others became nuts after dying. She has already been nuts. She just came to human life for a very short period, but shrine was built after her death and became indigenous nuts. These are the photo where is Manyaseng area, which is UNESCO Heritage Site, etc. Manyaseng's village is near Tie, which is that area. She used to protect that area. The second picture is the picture, the right picture is the nut festival for her, and the middle one is the swing. It is a kind of decoration for near her shrine. For the Myanmar people, the nuts and the nuts from Thai is a bit different. Nuts from Thai can never be seen at home, except a small festival time. Only at their shrine you can see their sculptures. All these are intangible hybrids and tangible sculpture, but not whole body. So that's my part. Now, my friend Theint will continue our presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Theint. Yes, I'm continued my first about the ancient hybrid creature in sculptural art of Myanmar.
She divided her ancient creatures into different categories. You see the list here, into cosmic, Hindu, Buddhist stories, deities and guardians, and decorative elements, although in fact all are intermixed. Can you move to the next slide? You see here, this is very much and deliberately in contrast to the part that Whitney just explained on the contemporary nats. These deities are quite similar to the ones that we saw in the previous presentation, very overtly hybrid nats. The Mahapeni, who is depicted, you see here, at Mroku, Thiriketia, and in the Konbong period in the 19th century. Next one, Wu-Yi. Then we have Nanda and Garuda beside Harihara, and other ones, a number coming from Mroku, Vihara and Hagriva. The Hagriva's depiction is from Pagan. And the next one, Wu-Yi. In particular, she's included a number of examples from Mroku, which is currently being considered as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Viala, who we see him here wonderfully depicted in very various places, from Mroku, the 15th century site, from Danyawadi much earlier, an undated sculpture, and Biala in Mara's army, which is the second part of Theint's presentation, where we have 11th century plaques decorating the Ananda temple. He's often compared to the Piensayupa, which includes 5 different deities. The next one, Wu-Yi. And the Makra, you see him here, also included at, I believe, the Ananda, but a range of different temples. And like many creatures, all of these have been sustained throughout the whole sequence of Myanmar art. So our point in including both the ancient and contemporary aspects was to give some idea of the way the accumulation of deities and mythical creatures over time, that sustained development within Myanmar, because there has been no great disruption within the religious iconography sphere. There's been great change over different periods, but many, many creatures that we see in the past are part of the present. Okay, the next one, Wu-Yi. We also see other depictions of the Garuda. Theint has included one from Pagan, you see here in the center, a number from Pagan, where we see him in both anthropomorphic and much more bird-like manifestations, a very, very popular deity that many people still venerate today as an accompaniment, but you always see him here as accompanying another figure. The next one, Wu-Yi. And find the Hati Linga here seen in relief. We don't really see the Hati Linga, the elephant bird, except in relief. Interestingly enough, he doesn't. So if we count these deep bas-reliefs as sculpture, we also see him here. Many of these have Hindu origins, but within Myanmar particularly, they're hybrid forms as they've moved within the predominantly Buddhist culture, have been somewhat retained as a distinct identity, but somewhat merged within the Buddhist world. So to call them separately Hindu, I think, is not appropriate. The same thing is true really of the Nats, although they fall into a slightly different category. The next one, Wu-Yi. The Kirtimukha is a good example of this. A creature that is often seen, for example, in Cambodia, above doorways. And we also see him here in what's called the Bilu Pansui, coming with the foliage emanating from his mouth. Also here below, as he's often seen at Pagan, preserved in some of the wonderful stucco reliefs there. The next one, our reason for including this inventory in this first part of Theint's section on the ancient hybrid creatures was to show the multiplicity. The Kenyi, I think this is her final example of this, so that we were conscious that within Wutyi's first section on the gnats, their hybridity is unusual. Their hybridity includes manifestations that are sometimes one thing and sometimes another thing. In these cases, these are, in a sense, fixed hybridity. We see here a bird-headed creature that occurs a love story, a male and female form. And the next one, if we can keep, let's see if we can keep moving. I'm conscious of our time. The Monothea, which is particularly associated with the southern Mon areas. An ogre, again, who's associated with driving out a child-eating ogre of an area so that the disciples of Buddha could come and propagate Buddhism in the area. But now he spread to many, many temples. And in particular, we wanted to bring to you the Mara's assault on Buddha. These figures occur on the basement level of the Ananda temple at Pagan. They're usually associated with the Devata celebration on the Buddha's event of enlightenment. They follow a Mon tradition. They're inscribed in Mon language, and they're later followed in the southern Mon and in Arakan. But they're amongst the most creative of the hybrid creatures, in my view, and in Theint and Wutyi's view, that are preserved from ancient Pagan. They occur, if you go to the next one, Wutyi, if you're still in motion, they occur on the basement level of the Ananda temple. And you can see them here. They've been divided by Duraicel and also by Emmanuel Guillon into two different types. Some are the completely hybrid creatures, and others that you see here along some of the side levels are the cavalry. So if we're looking at Mara's army, we might divide these into two types. They'd be the infantry that are sitting on their different creatures. You see that one of them here on the right, you see soldiers of the army of Mara holding their arms high. But in fact, interestingly enough, these occur on the basement level of the Ananda Pagoda, and they're in retreat. Other figures here, like you see below on the bottom, you see there's small rosettes that are above these two creatures. I think those may signal that in fact, the Buddha is victorious, and the army of Mara is on their way out. So the rosettes are often associated with the Dhamma, the victorious teachings of the Buddha. So that they still look appropriately fierce, but you see them here. You see some of the demons with serpents coming out from their mouth, coming out from their eyes, and coming out from their ears. So they exist, and we were hoping in showing them to this audience today that we might gain some comparisons within India, because we haven't found so many that are this type. The temple on its exterior, in fact, depicts all of the Jataka stories, and then the tale of the defeat of the army of Mara. Next one, yes. And you see they're not just restricted to the Ananda temple. We find some of these figures, most famously, the ones you see on the right here, the elephant-headed warriors of Mara. But these, unfortunately, have been scattered, the ones from the 15th century Bago temple. You now find them in many, many museums around the world, whereas the Ananda plaques are in situ, one of the extraordinary ancient monuments preserved within Pagan. Next one, Wutyi. Okay, we brought together for you today here, and I hope we haven't run over our time, to try to show you how most of the mythical hybrid sculptures within Myanmar contextualized within the 31 planes of existence. Wutyi has shown you the indigenous local Nats of the lower realms and how their many manifested as Maydol figures are, I think, extraordinarily, interestingly ambiguous. Sometimes they're Naga, sometimes they're beautiful women, and they're all very much venerated. And as Wutyi noted, they're not venerated within one's house. Then in the category, the second, many Nats are preserved within house. Then the second type was showing the ancient examples. We show really more their mixture of how they bring together Hindu elements within Theravada. And in all cases, they manifest both a tangible and intangible traits. The next one, the indigenous qualities, as what you summarized, they often died an early death, Nat Sen, guardians of treasures, Theint, somewhat similar to the Theint that are found within Nepal, but there's a greater association with prosperity and promise of wealth than there is within the Theint within Nepal, which are more closely associated with Buddhism. But the way that they're seen today within Myanmar, all in their individual shrines, very much protective, fertility, and a trepidation that if you receive your boon from them, you must make sure to go back and say thank you. The next one. Within contemporary spaces, she also showed you Nankarain Medo, an unlisted, the two ones in Thykes and Shwenabe, part of the 37 outer Nats. I think I have one more. Within the ancient spaces, again, not brought into household shrines and certainly not venerated. But here we see the ancient space rather than the individual shrine that we've shown within the first part of the contemporary Nats. Here we see them, the entire Ananda in a way is a shrine in depicting the upper level and the lower levels. So the ancient demons, the retreat, the victory of Mara, the victory over Mara, Buddha's victory over Mara, where the temple itself, the central image, becomes the object of worship. So it's an extraordinary transformation of the entire monument to a living narrative. Next, please. Finally, the demons are portrayed as fearsome, whereas many others, especially the birds and the Nat Sen examples, personify auspicious rebirth and wealth. There are different physical types, intangible qualities, and certainly many, many different eras that we've mixed together here purposely to try to illustrate the sustained diversity of mythical beings in Myanmar cultures. That's the last of ours, and I'd like to say I'm very sorry that Theint's electricity seems to have faded away, but thank you very much.